Welcome to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. Every Wednesday, Mark and Kim, along with their special guests, will explore thought-provoking topics and ideas that promote creativity, self-help, healing, happiness, and well-being to inspire you on your spiritual journey. Each week, Mark and Kim will discuss different paths to achieving a more spiritual, balanced, happy, and healthy lifestyle. Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience, and all things spiritual. Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. Mark and Kim are tested, certified, and professional spiritual mediums, metaphysical teachers, healers, and spiritual advisors with their own individual spiritual practices in Seattle, Washington, and Los Angeles, California. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
Yes, hi Gary.
Hey, how are you?
Good. We are live on the air here on OMTimes Radio, Inspired Living. I'm not able to get Kim connected in here. Just wanted to see if she's on, but we're having some technical difficulties. But real quick, just wanted to say hello to our inspired listeners out there around the world. Thank you so much for listening in today to Inspired Living Radio with Mark and Kim. I am your host, Mark Lanehart, the Intuitive Prospector. I'm coming live from Seattle, Washington, and kind of running around here trying to get everything connected as the producer of the show. Kim, are you on the line with us? Okay, so we're not able to hear Kim, but we do have a very special guest today, and his name is Gary Stuart. And Gary, just wanted to make sure I still have you on the line.
Yes, I am.
Me?
Okay, there's Kim.
Oh my goodness. Hi. Welcome everybody.
No, welcome Kim.
Well, there we go. Okay, well let's just get this party started here, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it. So I was just opening the show, Kim, and we do have Gary connected. We do have the radio station connected. So we are all connected. It's Wisdom Wednesday. Sometimes you just got to roll with the punches when you have technical difficulties, but we're doing that. So let's have a great, fun show.
That's right. And our listeners, we are so happy to have you with us this week. Thank you for your patience as we got everything working through here and set up. I am, even though we got off to a little bit of a rough start here, I am extremely excited about our show today because we're going to be talking about the fascinating subject of constellations healing and the pretty amazing ways in which it works. I've experienced it a few times, and was pretty fascinated with how the dynamics kind of unfold in one of these sessions. So we're going to learn a lot more about that with our expert guest today. If there are situations that are holding you back in any part of your life, this is your show because we're going to be talking about how constellations healing can help support you. But first, I'm Kim Falcon, founder of Love First, where life transformations happen in Encino, California. And certainly if you are looking for support on your path in the way of greater understanding of life events, healings, hypnotherapy, or looking to further your spiritual development, I would absolutely love to hear from you. You can find me at lovefirst.info. That's lovefirst.info. And as you well know, joining me today is my favorite co-host, Mark Lanehart, the Intuitive Prospector. Mark, I know you gave yourself a little brief introduction there, but I'm happy to be here with you today.
I did. It was real brief. I was kind of feel like an octopus here. I've got eight different things going on. We do have the call-in lines open right now, so I was working on getting those lines up. If you are interested in interacting with the show right now and talking to our special guest, Gary, you can call 712-451-0011. Enter the passcode 587575. Please put your phone on mute if you are listening to the show live. It will cause feedback, and just wait for me to bring you on live to the show. But like Kim said, I'm Mark Lanehart, the Intuitive Prospector. If you want to work with me, please visit marklanehart.com or just do an internet search for the Intuitive Prospector.
And Mark, where can our listeners find us on social media these days? if they'd like to interact with us?
Yeah, you bet. So on social media, if you head over to our Facebook page, that's our main page, Inspired Living Radio. You can post a question there. You can also find us on Twitter at Inspired For Us. That's the number 4. Also on Instagram at Inspired For Us, and also Google Plus Communities. Those are our 4 main outlets for how we interact with our inspired listeners around the world. If you miss the live show today, you can head over and catch any of our encore shows. Kim, we're about to hit show 50, so we'll have to have a big celebration next week. Looking forward to that. But if you missed the live show, you can head over to OMTimes Radio Archives, and you can get all of our past shows this last year and a half. You can also find us on iTunes now, YouTube, SoundCloud, Podbean, or I do have my favorite shows listed at marklaneHart.com. And Kim, you have our positive affirmation for the month of July, correct?
That's right. I can't believe it's the first Wednesday of July. Hope everyone had a beautiful 4th here in the States, at least. And here we go. This is the inspired affirmation for the month of July. The universe is working in my favor each and every day. It sure is. So remember to say that throughout the day and then begin to experience what that can do for you. Without any further delay, we'd like to bring on our expert guest today, Gary Stuart. He is a master constellation facilitator of 16 years. He's an author and transformational speaker. His latest book is Master Your Universe: How to Direct and Star in Your Own Life Story. Gary's internationally recognized for exploring invisible family dynamics through family constellations. And he is double certified in the work, including Bert Hellinger's Movements of the Spirit Mind, facilitators training in Austria. Wow. Okay, so Gary has also facilitated well over 8,000 processes and is on the cutting edge of providing training for facilitators and other professionals. He conducts weekly workshops in California, which I've been honored to be at, and travels worldwide. He also offers distance constellation healing work for personal, business, or organizational issues, as well as breakthroughs in prosperity, organizational empowerment, of past life reincarnation, amongst other topics. And he can be reached all over social media. You can find him on blogtalkradio.com. You can find him on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and also you can find his book at masteryouruniversebook.com, and also on Amazon. Gary, thank you so much for being with us today. We're so excited to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. I guess the older you get, the more credits you get. So thank you for that.
I know you've quite a list there.
Yeah. I'm just moving and shaking.
You are moving and shaking. And by the way, Gary, you are. So for anybody who wants to do some work with Gary, I highly recommend it. Very, very talented in what he does. And also, I think the most efficient and punctual guest we've ever had on the show. If there was an award to be given in that area, you would be given it.
Thank you. I take it.
So, Gary, let's talk about constellation healing now. We're going to be going into break in the next 2 minutes, but we have a little bit of time to get started.
Sure.
I don't know how many people out there are aware of it. I've seen it through different spiritual groups and meetups and so forth, but it's a very interesting modality or way of healing that, So explain to us a little bit about how this works, what it is.
Sure. In a minute or so, okay, we'll do the, basically we're all conscious beings. You're conscious. Everyone who's attending any workshop is conscious. We're all conscious beings. But with that, we have a subconscious mind that we inherit from our family system and other lifetimes. I believe past lives are included in that. So our consciousness is actually quite enormous. And constellations give us an objective look at what we don't see, that what we're carrying or we're reacting to from our subconscious mind in a conscious way. So basically, it gives us a window. Constellations are really a key to data mine, if you will, the unconscious mind that we all carry as a species, as well as individuals in a family, and our own individual soul mission throughout many lifetimes.
Yes, and the subconscious mind is a fascinating part of the mind that stores so much information that to have a way in which we can tap into that through constellations is a pretty remarkable way of being able to do that. That is our cue. We are going to be heading into a short break here for 2 minutes. Stay with us, and we'll be right back with our guest, Gary Stuart.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
Are you seeking answers to life questions? Would you like to connect to a departed loved one? Are you suffering from pain, stress, or anxiety? Kimberly Thalkin is a tested, certified, and professional psychic, spiritual medium, energy healer, hypnotherapist, and the founder of Love First, where life transformations happen. Love First services support, guide, and empower individuals by connecting them to their highest potential to live a healthier, joyful, and meaningful life that's filled with purpose. All services can be done by phone, Skype, or in person in Encino, California. Please visit lovefirst.info. That's LOVEFIRST.info for more information. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Are you wondering what is really going on behind the news? Check it out. Join your hosts Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland on Share on the Air Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us on shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for. Check it out.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
And welcome back, inspired listeners, to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim and our special guest today, Gary Stuart, as we talk about the fascinating topic of constellation healing. Yes. So, Gary, you were right in the middle of finishing your comment when we were going to break, so I'll just let you continue on with that.
Yes, so if we really look at constellations, imagine an iceberg. Some people see in pictures and understand in pictures more than words. So I'll give our listeners a picture to think of. So think of an iceberg. You have 1/10 of the iceberg above the water and 9/10 is below it. So you could look at our subconscious mind as like the 9/10 below the surface of the water. Now, if you add constellations to that, really the water that we're floating in is actually the universal consciousness. But in that universal consciousness lies the consciousness of all the dead ancestors who came before us, in that universal mix of the ultimate reality, I guess, on the heaven realm as well as the earth realm. So you can see that the heaven realm and the earth realm are coexisting simultaneously all around that iceberg, keeping it afloat in this ocean of consciousness, if you will. So that way people understand we're on the surface right now in 3D physical reality, but we're connected to what's below us and the universal consciousness simultaneously. It's almost like our DNA is a transistor to the universe, and we receive many signals. Most of them we block out. I've been reading some science things, and they say we have we're blocking out about 4 billion bits of information per second every waking minute.
Wow.
It's quite inspiring and shows you what we're not paying attention to. And of course, anyone who's ever slept knows you have a pretty active dream state. If you can remember your dreams, those are those bits coming through to you unfiltered during the sleep state.
And so how is it that, what our ancestors had, what they've lived through and experienced generations, many years ago, how is it that might affect us today?
Because we have their DNA. So even Greg Venter, who deciphered the human genome, when he was finished with the physical genome, which he used his own, where he was working on it, the first human genome was him, he said that there was an epigenetic field. So imagine your human genome as keys on a piano keys on any piano. Well, he felt that the genetic expression was being played by invisible forces, and he called that epigenetic field. That is actually the conductor with the symphony playing our DNA to express itself in a certain way. Yes, great health. No heart disease. Yes, diabetes. No cancer. Yes, cancer. And that our gene expression is actually played by invisible forces. I believe constellations go into that epigenetic field of the family history of other people who have the same DNA as us. That's the irony. Our DNA is shared for 20, 30, 40, 50, 80 years, and then we're back off to the spirit world. And I think we have a direct connection to the spirit world actually through our DNA, because that was our ancestors' DNA.
Sure. And can they what they did generations ago affect every part of our life? Are there certain ways in which we might see that play out in our life today?
Yeah.
What might that look like?
Yeah, there's two layers.
And also, too, before I forget, and how do we know if something that we're experiencing today is a result of our ancestors or maybe just a result of our own individual karma?
Right, both can be true simultaneously. I believe consciousness really has no boundaries. So the first part of your question was about our ancestors. Well, basically, even psychologists have determined that post-traumatic stress can be inherited. That means you can have the reaction to your ancestor being in Auschwitz, but you're not in Auschwitz, but you carry the same fear or mental outlook, say, in your body because your genes that are in your body had that negative experience of being imprisoned and executed or whatever. So we can carry all that fear. And I've worked with a number of clients, a huge number of clients with World War II trauma on both sides. And it's absolutely fascinating how in the field that opens up, the field of consciousness that opens up in constellations, we go right to the source. I probably should tell people how constellations are set up. That might
Yes.
be our listeners. So, any group, you can do one-on-one, but I really prefer a group experience because the group can hold the energy or consciousness of our ancestors. And the people participating, we call them representatives for the working client. They can tune into the client, the raw energy or the raw data of the client's family system because they don't have the filters that were actually survival mechanisms for that family system for eons. So they can be objective about the energy they feel from a client's ancestry. And it really, very often, as you've seen, takes us back to a time and place that actually no longer exists, mind you, but it resides in our subconscious memory through our DNA and our eternal connection to our ancestors, spirit, consciousness, whatever you would like to call it.
Yeah, and what is so fascinating about that is, so explain how that works. There would be as you call it, a client that comes to this.
Yeah. So a client would come, they'd want a constellation done to solve a problem. So it could be anything from I keep picking the bad boys in life. A lot of women have that pattern. Or unavailable men. It can be I'm always broke, I don't know why, and mostly it's love, money, relationships, or they're having a fight with their siblings over an inheritance or something like that. And of course, health issues. Some people have terminal cancer, some people are plagued with IBS and many other health issues that Western medicine, nothing against Western medicine, but they haven't been able to solve it because it's kind of an emotional, psycho-spiritual connection to all disease or dis-ease, so to speak. So we go in that field to work in conjunction with Western medicine, not against it, but for the best outcome for the client.
And how is it that, okay, so the people who are enacting the roles of different
Yes.
family members or scenarios, do they have to be psychic in order to be able to enact these situations?
No, some people are more sensitive than others, but we're all born empathic and intuitive, even men, believe it or not. And
there's a few out there, right?
there's a few, many. Surprisingly, I've had more men cry in other families' histories than you would not believe, because these men say, "I never cry, and no less in public." And here I'm helping someone else's family, and I'm in tears. How'd this happen? And
right.
The emotions can be that strong. It's almost like constellations give us an objectivity where we can be objective about someone else's family, where in our own family we're subjective. So I never try to take anyone's belief about the stories that happen in their family system. They're all valid to the client, but there's an underlying story. It could be a deep movement of grief or a deep movement for survival. So the life force really is really strong, especially if there was severe trauma. People are so distracted by the trauma, they forget how resourceful and life-affirming the life force of the family system is to survive Auschwitz, to survive the Irish famine, to survive the Mayflower or slave ships coming to America. There's an incredible amount of strength, but we're so distracted by the trauma and drama, we forget, there's something good underneath. There's a deeper love. There's a deeper strength. There's a deeper resolve to survive.
And so, Carrie, you mentioned a topic earlier, which I think will pique all the women listening today. You said, I always choose the bad boys. So walk us through a scenario like this. The client comes to you and says, Gary, I don't know what it is, but I tell you, I just can't get it straight, and I always seem to choose the bad boys in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'm not denigrating women in any way, but some like a challenge to change somebody from bad to good, so to speak. So they're more up for the challenge. And the goal of converting someone from, say, a despicable human being to an honorable, a knight in shining armor, so to speak. And they would see someone who might be wealthy, who would be able to provide for them, and they just look at that as the most boring, unchallenging thing, and they would never pick that person, almost because there's no work to do. So, and whether it's the battle of the sexes or not, I don't know, but it does seem to be a recurring pattern. Now, generationally, if other women have done that before, then we call it a loyalty to the family system. So all women would pick bad boys and try to convert them into something better or something good. And it very seldom works. And but at the same time, those bad boys gave babies to these women to continue the family line. So here we have an ancestral structure, if you'd like to look at it that way, of a pattern that the women are honoring all the women who came before for picking, say, an undesirable or a man who's challenging, so they can be up for the challenge to fix that person or make them a better person and become a mother with that person simultaneously. So it's a pattern of loyalty, basically. And we're actually chained to that more than the bad boy. It's loyalty to the other women who suffered under bad men, so to speak, or bad boys.
Oh, my goodness. I just feel weighed down listening to that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel weighed down in my chair listening to that, taking that on. Oh, goodness. Okay. That's without even recognizing that is what they are doing, is taking that on.
Yes. And that's how the subconscious mind works. We're not conscious. We're following a pattern of our ancestors. Most clients who receive a constellation are shocked at how similar they are to their parents or grandparents, and that there's almost a unified consciousness in the family. The great thing about constellations, actually, is we can look at it objectively and make an empowered choice to walk away or do it different. We don't have to follow the pattern. We'll always be connected to the family. And maybe this will be the first woman to have a healthy relationship where there's no domestic violence or abuse, verbal abuse or something like that. because let's say the female line will have finally evolved that they don't need to suffer to be in love. They can have it without suffering, which is a new paradigm for a woman who comes from a family that chooses bad boys.
Okay, and we're going to be heading into break here. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. Stay with us as we continue our conversation on constellation healing.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Mark Lanehart, the intuitive prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Mark's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream. Dare to explore. Dare to live. For more information on Mark's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marklanehart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
Eros Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim and our special guest today, Gary Stuart, as we talk about constellation healing. So, Gary, before we went to break, we were kind of wrapping up the notion of women that may come to you to clear up their patterns of choosing bad boys in their lives. So what happens after constellation then? Is there a shift within them that all of a sudden now they're attracted to more stable men, or do they start making different choices, or what exactly happens after that?
Well, a lot of what, say, a woman learns in the constellation is there's deeper lessons too. So you have the surface of being attracted to bad boys and converting them into, nice guys or whatever the goal is. But also what we do find is there's a bond that how can I belong to this lineage of women who have suffered if I don't suffer? So very often there's a big guilt to be the first one to change the paradigm in the system. So when you come from, say, 10 generations of women who've either picked the wrong men, allegedly, I mean, the clients here because they picked those men, so obviously they received life from that bad boy lineage, but there's a deeper guilt that if I do it different, I'm disrespecting all those women who suffered. So very often in family systems, the bond with your family is suffering rather than, let's say, a loving bond or a nurturing bond. And people are so desensitized from love because of trauma and drama that they forget that the actual bond is a deeper love. So we try to reacquaint the clients with the deeper love that let the client be abused by their parents, or if it really was a bad boy, a domestic abuser father, then there's also a loyalty, say, for the daughter to look for a man who's like her father, and that continues the bad boy lineage. So it takes a lot of gumption. When you see it objectively in a constellation, you really realize, oh, I can make a choice. I can do it different. I don't have to follow the pattern of suffering. And obviously, genetically, they're genetically connected to all the men and women. Of course, the bad boys were the fathers for generations. So they can make an objective new choice that doesn't repeat the pain and suffering that all who came before experienced.
Well, and what I find is so fascinating too is how you refer to some of the people involved as the perpetrators. Let's say the ones who committed the abuse,
Yes.
And the importance of honoring them in the process too.
Yes.
Explain that a little bit.
Well, we honor all sides to it. So we didn't create the wheel of life. We're all in the wheel of life. And what I find from doing this so long is there's almost a perpetrator victim, or you could call it a contrast of opposites, dark and light, that fuels the wheel forward. So otherwise it's just flat and dead, not moving. So it seems like the life force itself needs challenges. So we don't say when one galaxy crashes into another galaxy in the universe that was a bad galaxy to destroy that galaxy. There's something in creation where change is based on destruction or violence in some way. And, I've gotten new insights into that over the years that I do it. And I'm a peacenik. I don't believe in war, violence, guns, any of that stuff. But you start to see the life force. There's a cause and effect that happens. And if you look at something as innocuous as a dandelion in a field, well, it's a windy day. There's hail unexpectedly. There's rain. There's wind. It doesn't say, oh, I'm a bad dandelion. I shouldn't flower or stand and wait for my day in the sun. It just weathers the storm. So a lot of our family systems are like we had to weather the bad weather growing up. And boy, there were some severe storms. There were sexual tornadoes of incest. There was violent abuse with straps and whips. There was neglect and indifference. There was starvation. And so that's kind of the mindset a lot of people grew up in. And for them to look at it objectively and see that, wow, I still had enough strength that I survived that. Wow, I must be a really strong person. That must have made my life force so strong that it wouldn't kill me. It made me stronger. So what we try to do is create a healthy boundary so we can leave that violent or negative past behind and move forward to a positive future without repeating the mistakes of the past.
Okay, very interesting. So it looks like we have a caller on the line who would like to come forth with a question here. So, Mark?
Yeah, we sure do. We have our open phone lines right now if you want to call in and talk with our special guest, Gary Stuart. Real quick, Gary, where can our inspired listeners find you? Where can they read the book and all the beautiful work that you're doing?
Well, all my books are on Amazon, and my website, I have a couple of websites, constellationhealinginstitute.com, and I have an 800 number, 800-361-2692, and I'm always available by email from my website, gary@constellationhealinginstitute.com, and, of course, on Facebook.
Awesome. All right. Well, we have our an inspired listener that's been patiently holding to ask you a question. So, Vivian from LA, you are live on the air on Inspired Living Radio.
Hi, Gary.
Hey, neighbor. How are you?
I'm good. So I was inspired to call up today because, I've done tons of work on myself, like a lot. I get everything you're saying about epigenetics, and I get everything you're saying about how, some things aren't ours. They belong to, the fact that we're created from our parents and their parents, et cetera, and lineage. But I feel like no matter how much work I've been doing, things have not shifted yet. And if anything, more challenges occur. And I'm not really sure what I haven't completed. For example, I had remission. And then 2 weeks ago, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I finally, work has been challenging over the past 5 years, and I finally got an assistant that I really liked and really a blessing and so helpful. He comes in on Tuesday and says that for personal reasons, getting a divorce, moving back to Arizona, gives me 4 days notice.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had a good relationship in over 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really one area that I can truly say I am grace and easing through. What I'm grace and easing through is dealing with all this stuff.
Right.
So, how would you go about working on that?
Well, what we have is when a client, say you come to a group process, you would set a goal as to having these negative situations not show up in your life so much, and what is the deeper cause of it. And the great thing about the group, I don't tell the group, you don't know anyone in the group, they don't even know your last name, or we keep it blind or secret, and then you would pick a rep to represent you with these results you would like, is an easygoing life, healthy, whatever the goal is. And then they start to show the subconscious picture that's been feeding it. So when we see ourselves turned inside out in the most loving, supportive way possible, huge shifts happen extremely quickly because we're really tapping into the power of subconscious mind. And, anything I say, don't think I'm judging you right now. I don't mean it in that way, but if you look at sometimes when people get multiple diseases, that can be a microcosm of victimization in the family line. So I work with cancer and a lot of diseases, people seeking better health. And I'm not saying we cure cancer, but we look at the emotional components that are underneath the symptom or disease to find the bigger dynamic that's under there. And once we release any negatives, the immune system can be stronger to fight that. Or, I know tons of alternative healers too, and I know people that specialize in Lyme disease and other things too.
I'm on a program to get out of it. I'm not succumbing to it, nor am I victimizing myself. I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I'm not discounting it. I don't know. I've been told that I'm not a victim at this point, and I'm not. Lyme disease is from a tick. It's not. I know that most illnesses stem from an emotional attachment.
Right.
But it's like where does that end, and just like what the hell begins? You know what I mean?
Right. Oh no, I totally understand. No, and I totally understand that as well. It's complicated, but the great thing is you see everything objectively. And if you start looking at a lineage, if other women suffered with different diseases or conditions in the family system, we start to just examine the consciousness that's involved in that, and it's just hard to...
How do you release that?
Well, constellations release it quite profoundly, that's for sure. I did a distance constellation for a friend of mine in Toronto who had IBS since she was 5 years old. And after she wasn't even in the room. She's in Toronto, I'm in LA doing the work on her behalf. Her goal was to have better health. And it really showed she's been taking care of her mother since she was a little girl and not kind of parentifying her mother. And the day after the constellation, I'm telling you, her IBS has been gone since that day. And she was absolutely surprised that was what her IBS represented in her body since she was a little girl. Now that it just released the energy of it, and she's so thrilled not to have it anymore. And she's taking proactive steps to let her mother take care of herself and not depend on her so much. And that's what her IBS showed. And it left after 1 month. Pardon me? I'm snapping in.
Worked on her.
So Vivian, ask your question one more time, Vivian.
So when you're doing this constellation process, does it look like meditation or does it?
No. Yeah, I don't know if you were listening at the top of the show here. We use representatives to be, so you'd be the working client, you'd pick a representative for yourself to resolve Epstein-Barr, Lyme's disease, and to see what subconscious elements, maybe from your family system or something else, are feeding that. And then we work with that in the group to bring it to resolution to the best of our ability. Then the deep shifts change. And believe me, I did 30 years worth of work myself before I discovered this, and I dedicated my life to it because it was the deepest, most profound healing modality that I've found on earth so far. So I get a lot of people who have, been through the mill trying everything. So it's a group experience, and the group can intuit subconscious things that you're not even aware of, that you're connected to through your ancestry, that once we get that resolved, you'll be in better shape.
Well, and as you can hear, thank you so much, Vivian, from LA for the call. We're going to be heading into our final break with our special guest, Gary Stuart. Stick around, listen to Inspired from OMTimes Radio. Self-consciousness.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, I'm Kelly Fox, host and astrologer of The Astrology Show. Each week, I'll give you access to the current transits, which are a valuable tool that provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has. Understanding the stars can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, be sure to tune in to The Astrology Show for guidance, Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
And I'm Alicia Isaacs-Howes.
And I'm Catherine Glass.
And we're the Psychic Angel Channelers. You can find us every week here on OMTimes Radio at Angel Talk Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back, inspired listeners. This is Inspired Living Radio with Mark and Kim here on OMTimes Radio. Special guest Gary Stuart. And right before the break, Gary, thank you to Vivian for that call, and makes a lot of sense. You said you've been working on this for 30 years, right?
Who, me?
Yeah, as far as on yourself, as far as the constellation healing.
I started, not constellation specifically, but I started when I was 23 with primal therapy, which was the rage way back then. And in all my healing journeys, I had no idea I was on this journey until I got older. And I've never found anything more effective than constellations for, let's say, data mining or re-experiencing your life in a different way. Mm-hmm. So, my own past, I was a severely battered child, and sure, I saw myself as a victim and all the anger and rage that was actually belongs to my parents. And to separate from that from me was difficult, definitely difficult. But this really showed me that I was that dandelion who was trying to withstand that bad weather for like my whole childhood, and yet I still shined in the sun. Some people don't get to do that. They die of a disease, they commit a crime, they get killed because of all the violence they were nurtured from, so to speak. But I had the strength and fortitude, which was also like a subtext to all that, to test my mettle, so to speak, this lifetime, that I could outgrow that and outgrow them and heal and be a healing force or catalyst for change in the world. this lifetime anyway.
Right. So on your website over at masteryouruniversebook.com, you can find more about Gary and his journey and everything that he's gone through. I'm just curious, why the age 23? Was there something that really...
Well, my friends, at the age of 21, in Massachusetts, where I'm from, you were allowed to drink, and I just saw myself drinking more and more and more. And I didn't feel good inside. I said, there's something deeper in here. Something's just not right. I don't feel good. It's not about partying or drinking. And I mean, it was the 70s rock concerts, and, it was socially acceptable. But I knew there was something very disturbed inside I had to address. And all my friends thought I was crazy for going deep. They said, there's nothing wrong with you. Blah, 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 just party with us, you'll be fine. It was almost like Ulysses with the sirens.
Right.
I said, no, I got to do something. I got to go inside. I got to see what's there. And, it actually happened. A friend of mine had me way back in the 70s snort some mescaline. And she left me. She had to do an errand, and I was like laying in the back seat of the car crying. Now, mind you, I hadn't cried since my beating since I was like 10 years old. So here I am in my early 20s crying like a baby in the back seat of the car unconsciously. And I woke up like, oh, my God. And I realized that crack, that emotional egg that I had put a hard shell around had finally cracked at 23. And I said, I want more of this. My body feels good. I felt so good. The cleansing of the tears just felt so wonderful. And I just said, I want more of this. So I just started seeking out any and all healing that could just release the inner repression I had from being a battered child my whole childhood.
And so the Constellation as a facilitator, you've been doing that for 14 years.
17, actually.
17, okay. And is that more of one-on-one work, or do you do group settings, workshops?
I prefer the group, because if I'm trying to help a client one-on-one and tune into their grandfather, the grandmother, the dead baby, the cause of grief, the cause of alcoholism, the cause of violence, and it's just me and the client in a room, that's like I'm shattering myself into a million pieces. It does work. I prefer one-on-one work with business issues where we can tune into money or career blocks. That's much easier, and then tuning into the entire family system. So when you have a group, the reps you can have one pair of reps to be your mother and father, another to be that a person laying down to be that dead or murdered uncle, another one to be the great-grandfather who survived Auschwitz, and then the grandmother who fled to Poland. I mean, it's amazing the human history we go into. And if I didn't have the representatives there, sometimes 10 to 15 to 20 people in the field actually processing for the client's subconscious. And the irony is a lot of those people have similar issues in their family. So this conscious field is healing them as well as the client, as well as everyone in the room, as well as all of humanity, to see the strength we have underneath the trauma and drama that we all endured.
So we have another question, Gary. I wanted to get your take on this from our Facebook page, one of our inspired listeners. They're talking about family curses and your take on a family curse. For example, I was watching an interesting documentary on the last name of Hitler and the family that lives in America today with their last name of Hitler, and how a lot of them, talk about this, being tied to that name specifically. Yeah. What is your take on family curses and that lineage, that DNA that you've been talking about all of?
Well, I don't want to go into, we don't have enough time to go into all of World War II, but Hitler's real name, to show you a microcosm of Adolf Hitler, his real name was Schicklgruber, Adolf Schicklgruber, and they chose the name Hitler because it had strength to it. So Adolf Schicklgruber was the byproduct, what I've read, of a rape of a Jewish baron to his servant mother.
No kidding.
And then you look at Hitler being quarter Jewish and how someone's ego and personality could manifest what they manifested in the world over self-hatred deep down is quite amazing to me. So there's a whole other story there. We won't go there anyway. So your original question was before
just the family curse, as far as
Yes,
the
I've dealt with that many times. So one client came to me about anger. All the men are angry, and his history was that his great grandfather killed someone in Spain. He's a Mexican heritage emanating from Spain. And on the first punch, he killed someone in the boxing ring. Now, mind you, they're all there with their money. They're this. They want to see a good fight. And then, of course, that accidental death in the boxing ring, we dealt with that. That showed up as to what the anger was. But I said, no, there's something hidden with that anger. It's not the anger over that, him killing the guy. It was the father of the son who cursed the family who was killed, that his anger that his son was killed in the boxing ring, he almost cursed every male with his anger over his son's death from the great-grandfather killing someone in a legitimate boxing ring. And once we got that resolved, the client was quite shaken up. He had no idea all the men were suffering from the grief. It actually was anger on top of the grief of this father losing his son in a fight. They were both there at the same time. Wow. So once we lifted that, the client was quite shook up. He had no idea it was the father of the dead boxer that was cursing all the males in the family with his rage and anger, which was really a cover-up for deep grief. He didn't want to see his son die, so he was so angry this happened, he cursed the men. But, his son agreed to be a boxer, too. And there's a certain territory when you're in a boxing ring, you don't know what's going to happen, and it just happened to be a tragedy.
Right. And as far as when they release that, do you find that people lapse back into that same thought or that same way of thinking?
Mind you, it's reinforced by, in his case, 4 generations of men have suffered with it, but he felt he was constantly releasing, and he couldn't believe that we hit pay dirt. We hit the root cause. That's what I love about constellations. We hit as much as we can, we hit the root cause of something, and that allows the shifts because we've released the secrets of the subconscious that we didn't realize we were reacting to. Once the secret's no longer there, it's almost like piercing a boil. I say there's been an abscess that's just been festering for 5 generations. The constellation is like the needle to fester that boil and see what's inside of it. It's guilt, shame, blame, grief, loss, sadness. And once we get all that out, the reactions to that don't have to occur because we went to the source moment that created all the reactions.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, the boil. I like that.
Yeah. It's back to the future. We're going back to heal something in the past so we can have a better future. Hence a movie title.
I love it. So what's coming up for you, Gary, as we get in the last few minutes of the show?
Okay.
I wanted to make sure folks can work with you and get out and see you over in you said, are you still in Massachusetts?
Oh, no. I was born there. I've been in California for 26 years.
So in California then.
I do biweekly workshops in Santa Monica every Thursday and Saturday night, which I've been doing workshops every week for 18 years now. And so people can book appointments, go to my website or ask for information or free consultation or whatever if they'd like to consider working. And my books are on Amazon. Master Universe is my latest book on Amazon. Many Hearts, One Soul was my first book on constellations, so that helps people intellectually understand it more. And I also have upcoming workshops in Detroit. I'll be in Detroit in August, in September, and all over LA. I do Westlake Village. I have July 31st in Westlake Village. I'll be in Irvine the 17th. If anyone's in Orange County. So I'm everywhere. Also in Reseda in the Valley, San Fernando Valley and Reseda. I do a monthly workshop at a spiritual center. So people are really amazed by the work, and it's such an honor to go. And I never know. So this isn't my belief system I'm foisting on anyone. It's an organic experience that unfolds the subconscious mind of everyone in the room, actually. Mm-hmm. And my goal is to serve the highest, deepest love and deepest good for any client and the whole group simultaneously that I work with. So this field is teaching me in real time, and then my job is to communicate the deeper lessons that we're all learning together in the experience. So it's a collective experience.
Well, you're definitely a busy guy, and thank you so much for being our special guest this week.
Thank you so much, Gary. So great to have you today.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it.
And again, if you want to connect with Gary, you can head over to our Facebook page, Inspired Living Radio. You can also find Gary at masteryouruniversebook.com. And you have all of the social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube as well. So thank you so much, Gary, and we look forward to having you back on the show.
Wonderful. Thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you very much. Namaste.
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 And as you can hear, Kim, that's the end of the show with the music coming up. And I have a hike coming up this Friday. If you want to get out into nature, look me up at marklanehart.com for Forest Fridays and an expo on July 23rd. Next week's guest, Kim, is that our ambassador, our former U.S. ambassador, talking about the powers. I think it is. Okay. All right, well, until next week, everybody, thanks for listening in. This is Inspired Living Radio with Mark and Kim here on OMTimes Radio. Be kind, be caring, be compassionate. Namaste.
Namaste.